Have you ever begged Allah to take away your feelings for someone, but they just won't go? No matter how much you pray, cry, or try to move on, the emotions stay. What if it's not because you're doing something wrong, but because something bigger is happening? There are signs, quiet, powerful signs, that Allah is actually guiding you through this, not punishing you. And once you see them, everything about your situation will start to make sense in a whole new way. 1. Your du'as are becoming more sincere. When feelings linger even after you've begged Allah to remove them, it's easy to assume your prayers are being ignored. But look a little deeper. Hasn't your du'a changed recently? Maybe before, you were just saying the words, "Ya Allah, take this feeling away." But now you're weeping, pausing between sentences, feeling every word in your chest. That shift is no accident. Sometimes Allah allows us to hold on to a feeling just long enough to break our ego and open our heart. Many people make dua when they want relief, but true sincerity often comes from emotional desperation. You stop making polished requests and start speaking to Allah with raw honesty. That's not weakness, that's transformation. And ironically, it may be that the feeling stays not to punish you, but to deepen your connection with your Creator. Think about it. Without this heartbreak, would you have been this consistent in your tahajjud? Would you have cried like this in sujood? Would you have learned to speak to Allah as your closest friend? Sometimes unanswered prayers are the reason we finally become real with Him. And that's more valuable than the relief we were asking for. 2. You keep seeing reminders of them during moments of spiritual reflection. One of the strangest things that can happen during this phase is how often their name, face, or memory shows up at unexpected times, especially when you're trying to focus on your deen. You could be making wudu, listening to a khutbah, or even in the middle of a peaceful Quran recitation, and suddenly they come to mind. It can feel confusing, even wrong. Why is this person appearing when you're trying to focus on Allah? But this doesn't always mean you're spiritually weak. In fact, these reminders could be part of your inner healing. Sometimes Allah uses emotional attachments to teach us how deeply our desires are tied to our identity. When they show up in those sacred moments, it might be a sign that your heart is processing, not resisting, the shift. Instead of panicking, treat those moments as cues to reflect. What is this feeling trying to tell me? Is it love, longing, guilt, regret? Let it surface and then hand it over to Allah in the same breath. That's spiritual maturity, acknowledging the emotion without letting it control you. You're not being distracted. You're being refined in real time through remembrance. 3. Your heart feels stuck, but not hopeless. It's a strange in-between place. You don't feel free, but you're not completely broken either. Your emotions are heavy, but something inside still believes there's meaning in all of this. That's not just survival. That's a quiet form of spiritual strength. When your heart feels stuck, it usually means there's a deeper lesson unfolding beneath the surface, one that can't be rushed. You may find yourself wondering why the pain won't fully go away, even though you're trying to move on. You're not texting them, not stalking their social media, maybe even cutting contact. And still, the ache lingers. This isn't weakness, it's actually your soul trying to catch up with what your mind already knows. Healing isn't linear. Sometimes Allah keeps your heart in that stuck state so you don't rush back into something that isn't meant for you. But here's the beautiful part. You haven't lost your hope. Even in this fog, you still turn to Allah, still whisper His name, still expect something better to come. That hope is a light, small maybe, but powerful. It shows that your heart, even when it's confused, still trusts the one who holds it. And that's never wasted. 4. The relationship is forcing you to reassess your intentions. Sometimes, the reason your feelings linger isn't because the person is meant for you. It's because Allah is using the attachment to expose what's going on inside you. When you're emotionally invested in someone, it becomes a mirror. Suddenly, you start asking difficult questions. Do I truly want this person for the sake of Allah? Or am I clinging to them to fill a void within myself? This stage is powerful because it strips away illusions. You begin to see whether your attachment is based on genuine connection or if it's rooted in fantasy, loneliness, or fear of being alone. And that awareness doesn't always feel good, but it's necessary. Many people rush into marriage or stay attached to someone because it feels safe, familiar, or exciting. But those feelings aren't the same as readiness or alignment with your deen. If this person brings out anxiety instead of peace, if your boundaries blur when you think of them, or if your spiritual focus weakens, that's your sign to pause. Allah may be using this waiting period to purify your intentions. Not to punish you, but to help you realign your heart, so that if love comes, it comes clean, conscious, and blessed. 5. You're being tested with patience and timing. It's one thing to have feelings for someone, it's another thing to sit with those feelings without acting on impulse. That's where the real test comes in, not in the emotion itself, but in how you handle the space between wanting and waiting. When Allah doesn't remove the attachment immediately, it can feel like punishment. But often it's a personalized lesson in sabr, patience, and tawakkul, trust. Maybe you're ready in your heart, but the circumstances aren't. Maybe they're not who you imagined they were, or maybe you aren't yet the version of yourself who can handle the kind of relationship you're asking for. Sometimes Allah delays the answer not because it's no, but because He wants to build your emotional discipline before giving you something that carries spiritual responsibility. You're being trained to trust without having proof, to wait without losing hope, to remain grounded even while your heart feels unsteady. That type of patience isn't passive, it's powerful. Because the more you learn to surrender your timeline and trust Allah's, the more peace you'll feel in the uncertainty. And when the right moment does come, you'll be grateful you didn't rush the test. 6. They're becoming a mirror to your own flaws. When your emotions towards someone won't go away, it's easy to believe it's all about them. How special they are, how connected you feel, how much you miss them. But often, the deeper reason those feelings persist is because that person reflects something inside you that still needs healing. In this way, they become less of a soulmate and more of a spiritual mirror. You may start noticing things like jealousy, control, fear of abandonment, or insecurity surfacing whenever you think about them. These reactions aren't random. They're pointing directly to unresolved patterns. For example, if you constantly fear losing them, maybe it's highlighting your need for validation or your unhealed attachment wounds. If their success triggers your anxiety, perhaps it's revealing your struggle with self-worth. Instead of blaming yourself or trying to shut down the feelings, use them as a diagnostic tool. Ask yourself, what does this emotional response say about me? That self-inquiry can be uncomfortable, but it's also where true growth begins. Allah sometimes allows certain people to linger in our hearts so we can confront our inner weaknesses, not to shame us, but to give us a path to purification. And that's a gift in disguise. 7. You're becoming spiritually stronger through the pain. It might not feel like it right now, but this emotional struggle is making you stronger in ways you haven't fully realized. You're learning how to carry a burden that once would have crushed you. The same heart that used to panic at every wave of emotion is now learning to stand firm. Not because the pain is gone, but because your connection to Allah has grown deeper through it. You've probably stopped seeking comfort in people and started seeking it in prayer. You've replaced impulsive messages with silent du'as. You've learned to cry in sujood instead of on someone's shoulder. This is not weakness. This is quiet resilience, the kind that builds spiritual muscle. Every time you feel something deeply and choose to surrender it to Allah instead of reacting emotionally, you gain strength. Not the loud, visible kind, but the type that makes your heart less dependent on the dunya and more anchored in your Creator. This journey isn't just about moving on from a person, it's about becoming the kind of soul that can hold love without being broken by it. And that's a strength that will carry you into every future test with more wisdom and more peace. No feeling is wasted when it brings you closer to Allah. Trust His timing, even when it hurts. Comment this heartfelt dua: Ya Allah, guide my heart with your wisdom.